Hello, everyone. My name is Yuta Jazz, and we are going to come back with another episode from the Occult Saga podcast. Yes, my brain keeps lagging on that point, but today we are going to talk about the void realms and void places and void world. Because there's actually some fun, interesting shit that I found out about it when I started getting into like really high-end spiritual experiences, and the astral became more clear to me, and I started working on like clearings and healings and a bunch of other stuff like that. Um, where I thought the void is just one void, and we kind of go to different parts or aspects of it where we can find like solace or home or whatever, or have a void within ourselves, right, that we kind of sink into, or that it's like a state or a stage within the spiritual community, or, well, as it's described, to be a part of the spiritual journey and process. It's also way more varied. There's multiple different types of voids. There's void creatures, which fucking suck. Um, and yeah, there's just more to voids. There's many voids. There's a lot of them, and they all have their own purpose and energy. Um, they are kind of not somewhere you want to travel. It's not a vacation destination. I personally do know of some people that love the Void Realm. Um, but they also kind of get up to some rank dank shit. I'm just gonna be honest. Um, it's usually the solitude and peacefulness and emptiness of the void that attracts people to house themselves in that type of energy or space or frequency. But you also usually if unless it's the white void, because apparently there's different one, or light void, however you want to fucking describe it. Um, you're also a little bit on the darker side of either liking beings that are a bit dark or unconventional or weird or whatever, or you just might have like an interest in creepy hidden things, and or you might be going through your own darker phase, and kind of like, I don't know, just playing with chaos magic in a way, you could say. Chaos magic, um, creatures of the void as well, interacting with them, having them as companions, or holding them, or whatever it is that is interesting to you. I personally use voids to um, dump excess unneeded energy. I do stay mindful of what type of energy goes in what type of void. I think when I started out, I kind of thought like it could just be used if very much like extremely needed. Over the course of time, when you're dealing with a lot of excess energy that you can't ground in or release into the ether the same way, um, it's also kind of important to pick and choose where you dump energy in general, so it doesn't like mix up or have like, I don't know, just unnecessary consequences and results. So don't always default to one place where you kind of leave or give energy. But yeah, so there's a bit of a difference between different types of voids. If it's your void that you're falling into, or you're having a void space or a void void lifetime period, right, as it were, you're fine. You're safe. Nothing's gonna happen to you there. You're gonna probably feel like shit a lot of the time. Isolated, cold, confused, things don't make sense. Um, deep revelations occur there. You're facing your own shadow. You're doing shadow work. You're experiencing like possibly internal gloominess, argument type of energy, like being argumentative with yourself or about life that you've experienced. You might be resolving where you might still feel shameful or guilty or blaming yourself. You might be resolving anger and repressed emotions of that sort when it's towards other people as well. You're finding purpose and meaning in what negativity you've experienced to actually like come whole and come out of that period. And not much is happening in your life. It's either a very much routine thing, maybe you're on welfare benefits, maybe you're having a health hiccup that's like lasting a really long while. You could be worrying that it's becoming chronic or you're always going to be the way you are. That one is a very common thing of being in your own void space and having to go through what it's called to be like the void of your own spiritual process. But you're fine. It's very much necessary. It's kind of like diving into a really low, dark, like I don't know, point of yourself in essence, so you can rise up and also you can deal with future shadow work in an easier way, where it kind of makes sense or it's not as bad. You don't really kind of care if it's occurring or not. You can kind of, gather your surroundings about you and around you and within you better, and you can just move on and work through it instead of feeling like the weight of the world is on you. Even if you feel like significant struggle or challenge or weight or other stuff like that, like it's gonna be different. It's not gonna feel like you're in this empty limbo space of your own, just emptiness and void. Sometimes your soul house can kind of the environment around it and it itself kind of becomes like this just entire void. There's nothing you can kind of understand within it or what's occurring with it. Maybe it kind of changes location or theme during this period of time. Not if you are a person that is happy sitting in the void and you're just kind of staying there and you've rooted your house there and you're like, I'm gonna chill over here. This is my happy space, my happy place. That's a whole different shebang. Um, which I don't think I'm gonna talk to you too much and cover because I just feel like it's not important. um, you can understand why you go through a phase of needing to be in a certain place with your soul house yourself. Why do you need a different theme? Why are you experiencing it? What do you fancy about it? Why are you overly, is that just you, or are you overly attached to something, or hiding from something, or I don't know, having a phase, right? Which is fine too. Phases are important. They're not how, you know, it sounds when you say it in this realm or world. But void spaces, there's a few. I'm gonna mention the top three that I'm constantly like occasionally pondering about and aware about. The one that calls this episode has been reoccurring because I kind of sat with the idea of it the most, and I swear people have been mentioning it. It popped up in like two, three different shows I've been watching. Um, it's just kind of there. I've been observing that specific void. We'll get to it in a moment. I'm also going to backpedal to the point of like lightworker traps as well from the previous episode. 'Cause I literally found out about this void and lightworker traps like kinda in one. So there's the dark void and the light void is how I'm gonna say it. One is completely black and endless. I mean, all voids are kind of just endless in general and just, a void of eternity of its own. They usually are in between of realms or they're in hidden nooks and crannies and dimensional corners or folds of creation and reality. There's many different types. There's many different ways to fall into them, to find entrances to them, or to just see that they exist. Coming out of the void if you're a resident doesn't work as easily as going into it if you're not. What I mean by that is void creatures kind of stay in the void. They're supposed to stay in the void. The dark one is full of creepy crawlies and nasties and really heavy parasitic energy that kind of is really good at demolishing shit or taking ownership and sustenance of it. If you get avoid attachment, it's good luck to you. It's just very nasty and painful, and also it takes a while to get rid of, and it also has this chance and opportunity to multiply really quickly, like really fucking quickly. Um, Usually, if it's not a cluster swarm of a being of some sort, you're only gonna have one. From what I've noticed, everything is a little bit of a loner when it comes to the void and void creatures. Some of them, yeah, they have packs and other things and whatever, but then they also have a collective like consciousness behind that pack. Otherwise, it's all separated like individual pieces of beings, I guess you could say that just try and grow off of light and spread their energy as quick as possible and kind of consume and yeah. Did you know this was gonna be triggering for some people possibly? Maybe not, maybe yes. If it is triggering you, you might want to click off. 'Cause yeah, I don't know. This type of topic might be a bit concerning to some people, and I don't recommend you listen to that because yeah, being freaked out and in fear doesn't really help you. Being aware and interested and curious and intrigued does if you don't kind of like, test your luck and fuck with shit. But that being said, voids voids are fine to go into if you're going into the empty spots of it, but there's no real need to do that. Some higher dimensional energies or beings know more how to navigate it than others. Going into populated or clustered areas is just not worth it. Going into anyone's kingdom if it's in the void is also very much not recommended. It's just not worth it. There's no point in doing it. Um, Sending stuff to the void, that's your dense excess energy, or you really need to let go of it, and you can't in any other way. Like that's just your last resort, is an option. It's kind of fine. If you go to complete uninhabited, empty places of it, sure, but also questionable and like why do you actually need to do it? If you do need to do it and you know that, then this doesn't this like little disclaimer doesn't concern you, but I'm saying this to people that might be kind of like the psychonaut equivalent of astral travelers or spiritual beings that are kind of like adventure, and they don't quite know what they could potentially get into the what with themselves going there or taking their friends with there, and then they come back with like headaches, stomach aches, can't sleep, have nightmares type of shit, don't know how to clear and cleanse it. Freaking healers don't even want to deal with you because it's very edgy, sticky, parasitic energy if you get like void beings or creatures attacking you. Um, they're also very old, very old. And they're just not worth the trouble. If you know how to navigate, that place, or you like residing in it, and you just hang out there, yeah, fair enough, that's your fucking thing. You still probably don't go into the clusters where there's a bunch of living crap and ooze and just melting, shifting energy of absolute darkness and denseness and all consuming like I don't know point of negativity. I'm not gonna say it's all just negative because it might sound a certain way. Like void spaces need to exist. That's the point. They're there for a reason. It's not like we can get rid of these aspects of reality because they're there for a reason. Why and how and all the other stuff, get into it yourself. Figure it out if you really want to. I would recommend reading books through the either Akash, seeing what you might receive in terms of downloads if you watch certain shows or read books, and see different interpretations of the idea of the void and how it is or comes across. Because there's your own understanding and perspective and spirituality that is very necessary, regardless of what topic we're talking about. Just because, in my opinion, you shouldn't go experience it, doesn't mean you can't research it and ponder and wonder about it and have your own reflections and philosophy, right? I'm just here to share the point that apparently a void is not just you going through a void experience, it's also actually multiple different types of realms with a bunch of fucking beings in them, um, that you should be careful of. But Yeah, I'd say the dark void is more populated. It's completely void of light. I'm gonna say that unless you see a light being sneaking around there somewhere, which usually they use like glamour or cloaking or something to not be noticed or complete. Like they shift their energy so they kind of mesh with the fucking walls, right? Like the chameleon in as much as they can. It's kind of like they also don't try creating ripples or do any specific like things or movements like there. Why you would go to void, I don't know. I'm gonna leave that to you because I don't know. Unless it's dumping things, getting samples, getting rid of beings, or tricking something while you're running away from it. There's multiple other options, but those are like just some that I could mention and say. And besides that, another one is the light or white or whatever you want to call it, void, which is it feels different. If you kind of go to those different spaces, you can really understand the absence and lack of light and the complete non-existence of it in the dark void and what that overall means as a prospect and what is a light void, which is just clear emptiness of just light. It's just nothing but fucking light. Yeah, there are some beings there, but not as many. Not that I'm aware of. They're just random points of like beings being conscious in the light void. A lot more a lot more many people or beings go there to just exist and meditate or sit and have a time out, but it does feel way different than the darker black void because you can actually sense light in it. You can sense that there is that energy permeating all of it. It's kind of if you could imagine how it would feel if you went into how shows show you going into the afterlife and it's nothing but it's just white everywhere, or you go into some type of realm like that, right? And there's nothing nowhere, it's just you and this whiteness of all, and you can, as a sensitive or an empath or I don't know, creative or philosopher, imagine what that would feel like. That's more or less kind of like it. The easiest way I would describe it in terms of physical, practical reality for humans is it's a little bit like being in a sensory experience of being in a complete white room. If someone would make it like, you know how there's quiet or loud rooms? If someone would make a complete white room where somehow you couldn't say where it starts, where it ends, it would just be like a humongous freaking stadium, right? That's always like just white. You can't see corners, you can't see the ceiling, you can't differentiate anything. You're just kind of like plopped in the middle of like a humongous room like that, and you don't know where's what, and it's all just white light. That would be it. It's a little bit like an office space, like when you get irritated by the point that there's that fake lighting system in either offices or buildings like that, except it's everything all around you. It can be fine because it doesn't feel as artificial as it does for us when we have fake light like that, but it's kind of like this constant stream of stimuli. It's like a constant registration of like light. Like it's just there's a tone of it. There's a constant frequency of like an essence of some sort. Um, Beings there are pretty chill. They don't really want to do anything. They don't attack. They just kind of exist. They just they're kind of mute as well a lot of the time. They might see you and observe you, but they don't really do anything or interact with you. I don't know. I've never really noticed them kind of do anything. I mean, one kind of might have like reacted to someone I was traveling with through that space, but that was about it. They don't really talk. They don't really do anything. They like observing and looking and listening. So if you need, I don't know, a wall to talk to, maybe you could use them for that. I wouldn't disturb them though, because they're kind of just there and they just like being there. and that's just their essence. They just exist, I guess. Maybe they hold like aspects of light and share it in sense, like I don't know, ripple it out, I guess, in a way. But that's just a speculation. That's not. I can't say that for true for sure. Side note, if you ever wonder like where the fuck am I pulling this from? Literally astral experiences, which is feelings, visions, imaginings, or dreams of living in whole other worlds. If you don't know what astral projection is, when you're either awake or asleep, that would be your best guess. And it's none of this is researched. Some of it you will find online, some of it you won't. Depends on, how where the reality is at any given point. People usually have a common basis on this if they're spiritual and have been doing this type of stuff for tens of years, or I don't know, even just five. Some people, right, get it already. Um, some people might not really click into some of this detail for like 20 years. So yeah, it's literally like channeling and experiences through my own self, but also talking to other people that have multiple of like experiences like this. And it's really weird how everyone's gonna talk about the same thing in their own words, but the same vibe and way. Like it's the same opinion, just coming from like a different set of lips, and it's odd. People might not even be talking for like a while, or not really bringing it up or experiencing these things at the same time, or the same periods of their life. And if it gets brought up, they're like, "Yeah, no, it's the same thing." It's like as if you read the same book, you're talking about it that way. So it's very quite fascinating, how, spirituality and consciousness and astral spaces, realms, beings, experiences, a bunch of stuff works that way. That's also a lot of why different realms are described to have a certain type of history, because usually, weirdly enough, some parts are going to be off for sure and definitely. Others might be actually fabricated on purpose, but most of the time you're going to see there's like a line of people realizing the same thing about these vague realities, and they're quite consistent. And it's just like, why would people across different generations and different times of experiencing the astral have the same definition? It's quite astonishing and unique. Yes, you could argue it's the brain, but I digress. The reason I mention that is because I just occasionally have people asking like, how do you know, or where is this coming from, or why? While there's some people that are like, yeah, I get it, 'cause you probably are spiritual yourself or have been doing this for a while, and you don't really doubt or question too much, unless it's like for a point of realization. Others are literally like, what the fuck? Is this just made up? Is this not? I don't know how many people like that I have, but yeah. Also good point of like mentioning it as a buffer for the last void space that I hate the most. I hate the most. I don't recommend anyone goes there. Don't connect with it. It's fucking dangerous. And unless you're kind of messed up yourself, you're gonna do that. 'Cause I've met people that have connected with this void space and the deities behind it and the beings behind it, and it just got fucked up. It's just the person was fucked up. They were doing fucked up things. They had fucked up spaces, conducting really weird online rituals without people knowing that they were participating in it. It was not nice. It was not great. So, yeah, some of you have realized already what I was about to talk about, which is Eldritch Terrors slash Eldritch Void slash Eldritch Deities. Um, Not a fan. Not a fan. Look, if you like reading the books or playing the games, or getting into that type of vibe and essence, Sure, as a spiritualist, it just don't work with that kind of crap is a recommendation. You do whatever you want. Everyone goes through many different periods of doing something that might be a part of their, journey or just unnecessary, and eventually it all ends up fine. Sometimes it just takes longer. Sometimes there's just unneeded consequences behind it too. In this case in point, Eldritch Terrors is a actual real void realm of its own. It's actually very very closely one for one with the depictions that we have from Lovecraft and the many different stories that have been coming out following that or just around that time in general. If I had to describe also even just the color, it's like this smoky, like pale, sickly gray, with also that pale, sickly, fucked up gray, having a green equivalent of the same shit, and it's just, mixed a little bit. Um, I guess in parts it's very, very mild, bluish, reflections, but mostly it's just gray and fucking green, and it's just sickly and cloudy, and not necessarily always just cloudy, but it's just a sickly feeling and color of that vibe and sense. There's many different beings behind that. Every deity and being has its own like collective of some sort. It has its own brood, as it were. Every brood has its own unique aspect of like function and power and essence. Um, I'm gonna quickly pause before I continue. Just bear with me. Yeah, I just started having a headache, so I just needed to do a thing. But that being said, yeah, there's different deities with different broods and different like abilities and stuff like that. And the thing is that realm and the beings behind that are really good at stalking and observing. They're really, really good at like I don't know, siphoning information and coveting that and just like accumulating it. That's kind of like their deal and how they currently process for the time being because they don't really have a really strong presence here. I don't know why it's coming through as an idea that they were more popular in Sumerian times. I don't know if that's true, if you know any of like the research or archaeological discoveries or otherwise like history behind that. Feel free to share it. I'm not quite sure on that. It just came through as a channeling. But they were like more popular around that time, mid that time, and then they kind of got forgotten. And they've not really had worship or connection as much as you'd think, except for well, the stories, started picking up and they became kind of popular, and they became a part of like culture in the modern day. There's everything to do with that, right? Like, um, we have major figures from like Lovecraft's thing. It's constant jokes with that as well in some places. There's movies, there's video games, there's even fucking plushies of the gods from there. So yeah, very interesting stories as well. Very interesting vibe and theme behind them, right? It's very particular and surreal, and I don't know, you can't really find it anywhere else. But the point is, they have been kind of trying to re-establish a connection with whoever they can. It's kind of hard though, because the thing is with Void Realms, as I said, stuff can't come out of it as easy. Some Void Realms are more connected with Earth than others. The Dark and White one, they're kind of properly like connected. One is one way, the other has both ways because nothing comes out of the White Void ever. But when it comes to the Eldritch Void, that shit is locked the fuck down for multiple dimensions. It's locked down for multiple dimensions. It's kind of left in its own limbo. It's maintained in its own limbo. And shit is really not allowed to come out of there. It's just its own pocket of fucking chaos. And disarray and terror and just fear and problems and other stuff like that. It's really left to be its own like over-contaminated botanical dome of some sort, you could say in a way, except it's not obviously like flora, it's eldritch shit. So some people obviously work with that energy. Most of the thing is how it works is the person becomes a little bit like a part of the eldritch if they start working with that type of energy. Can you come back from it and get sovereignty and like purify and all the rest and everything? Yeah, yeah. But it's basically kind of like an energy that hijacks you and takes it on as its part, like as a part of its brood or an extension of itself. Kind of like the best example I have is those ants that have like that fungi that makes them into zombies. It's kind of like a disease illness. It spreads really badly through them. It's the same thing, except it's you know it's this realm of the void kind of coming in through you more so, and you operate kind of like a zombie from it in a way. You might become really obsessed with it. You probably create either rituals or connections with it. You definitely find at least one of the deities that you really tap into and starts tapping into you. I think they're quite specific and separate in who is responsible for what and who has who. So everyone can take control and like keep their brood going the way they need to. So yeah. Um as fascinating as they are, I would not recommend getting involved. The really weird thing is I found out about spiritual light worker traps and the point that the Eldritch frickin' Void Realm exists even because of a spiritual community that I was about or from or like, you know, kind of talking on when I first really heavily awakened. The owner of it was also fucking crazy, constantly having like wars with other spiritual communities as well as like literally having this weird thing where the whole server would go through ebbs and flows of having a lot of action and then not a lot. And most of it was chaotic, all around, dramatic. Everyone was having like health issues or addiction issues or other shit and or being like kind of their lowest version or their lowest self. Um, and pretty sure it was, as we deducted, some of us, from seeing signs and evidence of it and seeing what they were talking about and very much connected to and privy to and what they were trying to do energetically, but also practically, that they were trying to bring through more of their energy into this realm. They had very high hopes and expectations of actually like not what was it called? It was like a very common thing back in like 2022 and 2023. I mean, it was already hinted at 2021. Um, that there would be like an energetical collapse of some sort. Yeah, very high hopes of bringing through the end of the world type of vibes, which wasn't ever gonna happen. But manifesting more of their energy here through the means of using a bunch of people as a battery for it is a very realistic point. It wouldn't be very widespread, but you could potentially have some people have like, you know, parasitic energy from that realm or a little bit indoctrinated of looking into working with eldritch terrors and horrors and I mean that's very quite possible and normal just because of how many people work with malevolent beings from other realms and darker and lower realms, saying like, "Oh, they're fine. They're friends, you know. They're fine. They won't do anything bad." Yeah, if you do that, I'm not judging you, but you know, don't lie about them being nice and benevolent and not abusing you, because they are. If they're from certain parts of the of creation, or if they're, you know, a certain type of being, like you can't make a parasite of the opposite of one. It's just that's not how energy works. That's not how it works. If they're void of light, they do not provide light. They suck on it. They eat it for breakfast, and your dinner and lunch and breakfast. So yeah, it was very surprising noticing and seeing that it wasn't just like a crazy possible owner, server owner doing this or whatever. It was crazy to see the signs lining up with not only their conversations and what they were intending, but how they were playing the field socially as well as like energetically, ritualistically, and ceremonially. It was really weird seeing a whole server be used for something like that too. And astrally, then you can literally see trying like to use a platform like a server to ascend it into something that's not great and nice, and then something like fucking observing the whole process, and looking down on it. For anyone that, I don't know why this is coming up, for anyone that might be curious, a way you might be aware of eldritch terrors kind of being around you or whatever, it feels like you're being seen by millions of fucking eyes. Glossy, freaking empty eyes, of whatever variety comes to mind. But you kind of can feel that it's that wet, fucking nasty dang place. Yeah, you just notice that they're very observational that way. But obviously, that sensation can come from many different directions, and that's just a sensation of possibly not only being observed, but stalked by certain energies and malevolent forces and beings. So yeah, don't integrate with them. Don't integrate with them. You might get into trouble. Um, the worst possible scenario with an eldritch terror is if they actually sever your connection to your higher self. Then you might as well as eventually get assimilated. But I mean, anything that tries and severs your connection to your higher self and claim you for themselves is already a danger in general, and you should not have that happen. Be careful of how you go through that process and realize who you truly are instead of going by worship of some fucked up deity from a different realm or reality that promises you everything and power, because you're probably not gonna get it. I'm gonna be real. They're not gonna deliver. They don't have power to. That's why they play the field through you, right? You're the one that has power and can actually call things into creation and call them out. But most people would not want to experience that type of vibe as a unanimous, understanding of existence. So thank fuck we don't have it. So yeah, I think that is everything. Yeah, I think that's everything. We're done. So interesting topic, interesting way of how it came across. I was very much pulled to it. I'm glad I did it. We'll see where this goes. We'll see where the podcast goes, and I don't know. Let me know if you have any opinions about the void realm, how your void realm is, which void realm you prefer, what type of void realms you've found. Usually I kind of like separate them by colors because it's easier. Then you can see different properties behind them. Like the fourth final example I'm not gonna actually talk about is like a lightning void realm that I usually see as like purple, dark fucking purple, also kind of full of fucking action. That one's busy. But I don't know. I can see that the void experience is kind of the same for everyone when they're awakening or healing in spirituality. But I hope this might just, be helpful or intriguing or help you spot certain things when you're going through astral experiences or certain people's intentions. And, look after yourself. Don't go out there willy-nilly into places you don't need to be going to, because you might cause some problems for yourself or others. And yeah, I hope to see you again. I hope to talk some more about something else that's kind of crazy, and we'll see where we end up. So peace be with you, blessings, and I hope to see you again.